features and get started so you can start to be a great guest. So without further ado, let's jump in there. You don't need to waffle or hear me anymore. Let's jump into the application itself and get you started working through it. So, excuse me, what we can see here is the initial screen as you log into the application itself. So you come to the dashboard. Really simple. We'll give you some little hints and tips at the top, and there's some rollover aspects that will give you some support as you walk through the platform for first-time users. Obviously, this is onboarding. I'm assuming that you've not seen the platform before, you don't know anything about it. So we'll step through a couple of items that will just get you started really quickly and get you working on the platform itself around that. What we can see here is our filters. So these allow you to filter through all the podcasts we have on record, the hosts, the shows and the details, etc., by various different categories here around that. So you can see podcast title, description, category, episode dates, number of episodes, our podcast Hawk score that we'll talk about a little bit later on, reviews on average and languages. So we've got a lot that we can search through to get started on. Initially, what we say to everybody is podcast title is great, but it's very specific. If it's about fly fishing, more than likely it'll have fly fishing in the title, or it could be fishing by J.R. Hartley. Actually, it's fly fishing by J.R. Hartley, if anyone remembers the advert from a long time ago. So what we say is to start with description. So that's what we're going to start with today. So we'll start with marketing as our first thing. And then we've got this element here called, and what that means is we don't have to just search for a podcast description containing marketing. We can look for other things. So we can go, and let's have a look for those podcasts that have marketing in their description, which we'll show you around that are in a category, or let's say I've had an episode in the last 3 months or so. So again, you want to reach out to shows that are live and active. You don't want to be reaching out to shows that have been dormant for 6 months or 3 months and not done anything else. And again, we could keep carrying on and adding more to this. So it could be, let's look for those that also have a high podcast Hawk score. And the podcast Hawk score is something that we use to look at the trailing aspect of podcasts as they're releasing episodes, getting really good reviews, etc. But again, we'll talk about that a little bit further. So it could be in this instance, let's look at those that have a podcast Hawk score higher than 50. So we've got 3 criteria that we're going to search for. We'll go away and we'll look across all the millions of podcast shows we have on record that shows in their description they have the keyword marketing. That's in there. They've had a show in the last 3 months and their podcast Hawk score we calculate is higher than 50. We click search and it comes back with some records around that. So we can see straight away, here's some shows that meet that criteria. And we've got 251 that meet that criteria that we've filtered down to. And that's a really narrow filter that we've created there. What we tend to say is to get started, do a wide filter and they'll filter downwards. But what I want to demonstrate, just because it's onboarding and showing you how to use the platform, is how to get started to find the shows that you really want. But what we tend to do is do a wide search and then narrow it down and building filters on top of that. What you can see here is the results. And again, you can hover over some of this. You can get a little bit more description details that are going on there, the episode numbers, the reviews, averages. So we give you some data on the last time the show was released and the podcast Hawk score as well. But if you click on the little magnifying glass, what that does is then pull more details through for you in terms of the actual full description. So you can see it had the word marketing in there, the categories that it was published to. So in this case, business, entrepreneurship, the host name, the country. Sharon has kindly provided a language. Some of the podcasts are in German or Spanish or different languages, and that language tag may be there or it may not be again. So it's just one of those criteria that you can search for, but you may not get the results back that you're looking for. The total episode counts that are there, and then the reviews and the number of stars against each review, and again, this podcast Hawk score. And then what you can do is look at the latest episode. You can play part of that episode as well and return it back and listen to it and see what's being said on it. Sharon, perfect. So you can get some more details on it and see if it's interesting to you. So that is your first search. We've literally come into the platform, created a search straight away and got started. What we haven't done is set up anything else in the background. We've not needed to yet, because we're working on the basis that you just want to get started straight away and start getting some criteria for reaching out to podcasts and getting some details on them. So you can see here, this scrolls down. In this case, we've got it set as 50 per page, but you can go here and you can make it 100, or you can make it 25. You can make it smaller, narrower, whichever you want to do. And if we go back here, we don't have to have this wider search. We can delete one of these criteria and do a search again. And again, it will just return more entries. Just on that basis, so we explain the difference between credits and searches, and you may have some questions around that. All credits are, so each plan, a trial account or plan has credits allocated. You can search all day long. You can use all of these features in Podcast Hawk. No problem at all. It's only when you're looking at a show and you say, actually, I like the Sharon show. It's really great. I'd like to reach out to her. I'd like to be on that show. Click plus. Again, depending on what plan you're on, you either have the ability to download only, or download or create a campaign. Now, just being careful around this aspect, if you decide to download it and you get Sharon's details, you have to go back through again if you want to create a campaign and automatically reach out to her. But what download does is, if we click on that, it'll create a little CSV file, a little file that you can open up in Excel or Google Sheets, and it'll have Sharon's contact details in there and all the data that we showed you in the magnifying glass. So number of shows, all that criteria around that. Oh, wrong show, because we've downloaded Sharon's show. On to the next one. But all those details will be in there for you to go and look at and email Sharon if you want to do that, but through your own personal email account, email tool that you decide to use. Now, we do have this capability in our promotion and super guest plans of creating campaigns. And what that actually means is that we'll create a campaign in our platform, or you'll create a campaign in our platform that would reach out to Sharon and, using our templates, ask to be on a show. That's it in its simplest format. And we're going to walk through that. But again, there's some settings that have to be determined before that. But the baseline is that you can get started to create a search for a show or set of shows you'd like to be on, download those details, start emailing them, and do that within 15 minutes. Literally, you started, you're already working, and you're ready to go. So that's the first part of being on board, is that criteria. It's the main criteria. And you can click and remove these sort of nag elements that are educational, but that's the components. You can see the shows are there, the details are there, and you download it. Now, what that all circles back to, and the point of that is, now downloaded Sharon's details, my credits have reduced by 1. So I've used 1 credit to download to get access to Sharon's details. I've not used 1 credit to search or do anything at all like that. I could keep searching. I could go back and forward, do whatever I want to do, change this, search again. It doesn't use any more credits up. The only time you use a credit is when you actually select a show and you say, okay, traders and business, I'd like their details. I want to create a campaign, or I want to download it. And again, I click download or I create a campaign, whichever, it would reduce my credits down. That's how credits work. So that's the first part, and the main part really of Podcast Hawk is getting you access to those details of shows so you can reach out to them and be a guest. Now, for those of you that are using the campaign feature, there's a couple of things that you have to set up beforehand. So you need to go into your settings and go to your signatures. And again, depending on the plan that you're on, you get 1 or multiple signatures. And you can set these up. And the idea behind this is that you can be different brands. So you may want to reach out to some personally, some as a business, some as another business or an agency's business, whichever it may be. But you can create these signatures in here. So that's the first thing that you need to do. The second thing you need to do, and there's a separate tutorial and video on this, is set up your email. So you can see here in the platform that we provide the settings for GoDaddy, Outlook, Bluehost, Gmail, etc., etc. And what we're doing here is we're connecting to your email service. It may be Stuart, well, in this case, podcasthawk.co. and we're connecting to that email service, and we're going to send those emails out through your email service as you. But by doing that, we need to connect to it and put your password in. It's all secure, enable SSL, and all these settings, provided those settings are ready for a lot of the services, and we can help you, guide you through that. But there's separate video on actually how to do this and some of the nuances around setting up Google, which has two-factor authentication or less secure apps or some other components that we won't go into today on this particular video, but you can watch a separate one that will help you get set up with that. And while we're in here as well, you can see, you can log into your settings here and see what plans you're on and what's your billing pattern. All these sort of elements are held within here, so you can see you can update your plan. So if you're on starter and you're just doing downloads only, you may go, actually, yeah, I'd like to have access to campaigns, so I'll move up to promotion or super guest around that aspect, and you can see what your billing is. Set your user details in here as well in terms of who you are, first name, last name, etc. And these are just business details. They're not related to your campaign side. While we're down here, before we jump into campaigns, you can see there are activity logs. You can actually go in and see what you've done, when you logged in, what's been going on within your account. So that's key to understand if you've been building campaigns or activities have been going on. You can actually see those in there. And then finally, we'll go back to the dashboard again. Before we jump into campaigns, we have this ability of saving a search, creating a list. And each plan, again, comes with numerous amounts of lists that you can save. But again, it may be actually, we'll look at this and we go, I'm going to type in marketing again, as podcast description contains marketing. And then I need to look for the latest episode date was 3 months ago. Okay, I remember that bit. And the podcast Hawk score was greater than 50. Fab. So I can rerun that again. But actually, I want to come back to that in a month's time. I'm not going to remember it. So I can save that search and go, oh, there we go. It was marketing, podcast Hawk score above 50, less than 3 months. So what that means is I can save that search. I can come back to it. I can run it again because I've created it as a save search as a list. Now, it's not a list of podcasts. It's just a list of the criteria that you want to search for. And it could be that you've got rolling podcast type shows that you want to go and see and look at, and you don't want to have to remember the criteria each time. So you can go back, go into your save searches, click on view, boom, it brings it back against it. And what you can do is exclude if you want to display the podcasts that are already downloaded. So I downloaded some earlier and I want to see what those were. Yeah, they'll be in here in green. Obviously, I've done this search before and I've already got downloaded podcasts around that. Same again, if you're running campaigns, you can display the already contacted podcasts. So you can update that search, change it, edit it, whatever you like. But it's there, it's available. You don't have to keep going backwards and forwards to remember exactly what you were searching for to get to those shows that you're looking for. So finally, let's go back to the core component of campaigns around that aspect. And just, one final thing, let's jump into there. So again, you may want to archive a podcast. You're like, what? Gary V? See you later. Not really going to reach out to Gary V at all, or it's not relevant, or it's in German, or it's in French, or whatever it may be. So you can archive it and it won't be in any future searches. So you can just push that to one side and away you go. Another little element from the search aspect, again, as you're filtering through and building these searches and getting your returns, is actually there's elements there you don't want to see. So now let's jump into campaigns. Let's get there. So what campaigns are, think of it as a way of automating your outreach to 10, 20, 100,000 podcasts, whatever number you want to think of, and doing that in the background without having to have a process there. We do the process for you. So think of it, if you've downloaded 10 podcast details and you're emailing them and you've done that and you've sent some messages out and away you go, you've got to remember to follow up. And then follow up again and keep a track of that. And did you follow up? You're not quite sure. Did you on day 3 or 5, or is it gone? Not sure. We do all of that for you. So that's what campaigns are. So campaigns are in, promotion super guest than not in our initial sort of starter type one, because that's to get you started and get you reaching out, starting to be a guest on podcasts. So campaigns allow you this ability to give it the campaign a title and a bit of a description so you can actually remember what it's about. If you're reaching out podcast advertising or marketing or fly fishing, whatever it is, you can give it a title so it means something to you. Then the core is we have 4 templates in the platform, and there's more that we make available. You can use them or you don't have to use them. But what they are is actually pre-built templates with subject lines and content in there for you to use. So this first one is really sort of quite intricate, and it helps get you started to understand the rationale about the body of the text that's going to be sent out there. So you need to delete some of these action parts, but this is to help guide you to be the best guest person for that host and show as much outreach that you can. And you can include in here what we call these little short codes. You can put those in there. So again, saves you time. So rather than thinking, okay, what's he called? Is it Bob? Is it Bill? I'm not quite sure. Actually, we can put in the first name, the last name, etc., the podcast title. All of that can go into your outreach, into your template. And we've done a lot of this for you already, but you don't have to think about it. You can insert an image or a link, make it bold, change the text, the paragraph, etc. in all of this before you send it. And you can then preview it, see what it looks like before you do actually go further. And you're not going to send it now. This is just building it out. And what these templates are is you've got your initial email and then you've got a follow-up. So after 3 days, if there's been no reply from that show host, you can send a second email out. And again, we provide templates, don't have to use them, or you can delete it. You don't have to send this day 3. You could wait and go, actually, I just want to send it on day 7. And there's templates there. So like I say, it's 4 templates and there's 4 emails that go out, initial one, day 3, day 7, and day 14. And what this mechanism is, a drip campaign to reach out to that podcast host and demonstrate who you are and what you bring to them to be the best podcast host out there. And you can include in here your signature, which will get included automatically. You can add your media kit. You can insert a headshot of yourself. You can include all of that in the body of these emails that are going out. So there you have 4 emails that are going to go out to, if you've selected 10, 20, 1,000, whatever it is, number of podcasts, 4 emails that go out to each single one of those podcasts. And that's 4 emails if you choose it, or 2 or 3. But each one will go out as a drip feed. So it'll go out day 0, day 3, day 7, day 14, all automated. Don't have to do anything. You don't have to remember to go back and did I send that one out? I'm not quite sure, etc. What for not filled in? Oh yeah, I've got to put some random stuff in because I've deleted whatever template that's there. So what we can do now is we've created our generic emails, let's call them that, using some templates, but still powerful, still got the right message in there. You can include how many emails you want to send a day. So it's going through your email account around that. So you may want to keep it to a reasonable amount of 10, 20, 30, 40 around that aspect, but not too much because it may be seen as spam coming from your account if you start sending thousands. You can select the date you want it to start. In the future, it's only from Monday to Friday because that's normal email patterns will be in a business day, business week, business time. You can choose the signature that you'd like to represent yourself on for this particular campaign. So you can select one signature that gets mapped against that campaign. And again, you can break all of these down into the number of campaigns you've got available in your plan. And then finally, once you've done that, you can go to review and launch. Now, this is where it gets really super powerful. So you've got Grant Cardone, you want to reach out to him and be on his show. Fantastic. You've got a standard template that you used and built. That's a generic one, but still powerful, like I say. You can customize this. All 4 emails could be customized around what Grant is talking about in his last 5 shows, 10 shows, whatever it may be. You can have a look at the shows that go back, have a listen to them, take some snippets out, go, hey, perfect. As Grant, yeah, in minute 25 and 32 seconds, you talked about X. Boom, there's your initial email. Follow-up 1 could be about another secondary show that's got a content piece in there again. Boom, include it. And the key aspect about that is showing what Grant's show's about. Obviously, everybody does. What's up about your show, but you're emphasizing about what you value you can bring to him as a host and bring to that show, and why, because you're relating, anchoring it back to either other speakers or content that's on there. That's the key element around that. And then finally, you've customized that, or 10 or 20 or 1 or whatever it may be. You can customize them all. You can move forward and go on to the next one or not. It's entirely up to you around that aspect. But you can also remove them as well at this time if you want to, but you don't have to. So again, you've gone in, you've looked at each show that you're reaching out to as part of your campaign, you've customized some, kept some generic. There may be some there. This one here looks like it's in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. There's no point in me reaching out to a Spanish show, so I could remove that from the list and go, yeah, don't reach out to that show because it's not relevant. It looked great at the time, but I made a mistake. And once you've done all that and you're happy and you've done everything you want to do, you click update and launch. What that means then is it goes into a launch activity. I haven't got any activity, I haven't got any campaigns that are active. It goes into a launch activity, and those campaigns start to get populating, going out, goes to our team who validate and check the host details and run through them and do verifications at that time as the campaigns are running. So we have human beings do that component, but you can see here that the number of podcasts that are included in that campaign, the pitches sent, and that's broken down by the emails that have gone out and where they're progressing. So you get a progressive graph going through, showing them all. The number of replies that you've got, that you get your replies over in your mail section when they're opened, click-throughs around that as well. And then also just filters that you may have in place where they're dropping through around that aspect. And like I say, they come into your inbox here, into your mail. You can see them all through there. So you don't have to leave the platform to do that. So that's a very whirlwind walkthrough in terms of onboarding. What that's done and got you to a point of, the core aspect is building your first search so you can find podcasts, saving that search, looking at the details of those podcasts in terms of what were they relevant to you, were they interesting, is it stuff that you want to be on those shows or not? Is it the key criteria? You're not quite sure, but you are now. Again, so you can run it and look at it. You can break down using the magnifying glass, looking at more details on the show and get the scoring system. Again, the podcast Hawk score is based on moving metrics. So that's based on the number of views, where they sit in 1-star, 5-star, have released shows in the last week or 2 weeks or 4 months or whatever it may be that they have as moving metrics. So that score is going up and down, changing on an ongoing basis. And then finally, clicking the little plus button adds it to either your download field or your create campaign aspect. And again, they're at the top and bottom around that component. So you've got those core searches, the core criteria to search by, how to go and set up your email signature, separate video for setting up your campaign email tool around that side. It's a little bit more in depth from an onboarding aspect. It's just better to keep that out separately. And then campaigns, how to get them started, up and running and ready to go. So I think we've covered all that we need to cover there from an onboarding aspect. We've covered all the ground, most definitely. And again, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. It's one of those areas, again, I know it seems really simple to us because we use the tool every day, but if you're a new user coming in and you just flashed up with a screen that says search and it's like the Matrix, you're not sure what to do, then today you should have enough information at hand to get you started to do those first searches, find out exactly what you need, find those podcasts you want to be on, start to get the contact details, start to build campaigns if you've got to build the campaign feature aspect and do the outreach. Start to get on some shows. We have users that have got 100, 150 shows under their belt now through the platform, purely automated. It just happens in the background. They just turn up to the shows. And what they like the most is those core features of customizing those emails going out, making them more personal, and those powerful templates that we have there as well in the platform. But again, thanks so much for joining us today. I'll leave you to get on with the rest of your day now, and probably time for going to get on some shows. Go and start using Podcast Talk. Thanks a lot. See you around.